Right, so Rishi Sunak and his secretive hedge fund links, which he may or may not still be profiting from via a blind trust. That's him paying for the privilege of plausible deniability, particularly when it comes to this business of Moderna. Numbers whiz Carol Vorderman has been holding his feet to the flames for weeks, wanting to know if Sunak's former hedge fund that he'd helped set up whilst living in the US back in 2009, Theleme Partners, which shortly before Sunak left for a political career back home here in the UK, became major investors in Moderna, makers of that COVID vaccine that so many of us will have had, and as such, have made quite significant money out of. The question mark here regarding Sunak has always been, does he still have investments with Theleme, which, although set up whilst Sunak was in the US, is actually based out of London. He was a founder. You would figure he would have sunk some of his own money into such a business interest that he helped set up, especially if he wanted it to be successful, and he had plenty of it by that point, having been an investment banker. But having registered Theleme in the Cayman Islands, I can't imagine why he chose there of all places. Any record of such investments need not be made public. However, this is where his expensive blind trust comes in as well, because if his Theleme interests were put into this trust, he has no idea what investments Theleme could be making that he would end up being a beneficiary of. Apparently, all of his wealth is managed by this trust, but does Theleme make up any part of it? He could be benefiting from Moderna's success. He could be benefiting from Moderna being awarded a 10-year government contract partnership, no less, into vaccine research here in the UK, the value of which has never been disclosed because it is apparently commercially sensitive. That's not good enough. That's awfully convenient for this government, not to mention completely unacceptable, because we need full transparency. We deserve that when it's our money, public money, that could be being used that ends up lining a politician's pocket. And given this has all happened within 2 months of Sunak becoming Prime Minister, it has raised suspicions further. Now, this 10-year contract, it was formally signed under Sunak's premiership last December, but it dates back to at least June of last year when an agreement to build a new Moderna vaccine research facility here in the UK got rubber stamped. The plan was to keep on developing more vaccines here, with a priority on combining boosters against COVID, flu, and respiratory syncytial virus. I hope I've said that right. SCV for short. This, of course, was under Boris Johnson at that time, though Sunak was Chancellor and surely had to have been involved here too. Particularly, this bit's crucial, when Moderna's CEO Stefan Bancel said at the time that capacity which we're building in the UK, that they are committed to buying the product for the next 10 years, this can be reallocated very quickly to anything they want. So we've committed to buying Moderna product for the next 10 years, have we? A contractual obligation, come what may, is that? When it comes to Tories, there are numerous comedic memes produced over the years asking who makes the money. In this case, more and more we're asking the question, is it the current Prime Minister who is making the money? And looks like he could well be sitting pretty due to this potential insider trading for the next decade. Moderna are also building new facilities in Canada and Australia, having gained governmental nods there too. So they're definitely growing, and somebody has to be profiting from that somewhere. However, any connection between Sunak and Moderna directly is still circumstantial, because if a financial link exists, it's in Sunak's blind trust. So it clears him of any conflict of interest. He can't know himself, hence the name, blind trust. Legally, even if there is a connection, he's paid out for an expensive, difficult to set up legal mechanism to ensure his own legal safety. Does it stink? Yes. When asked if he has ties to Theleme or profits from Moderna getting government contracts here, he won't answer. And given a massive 10-year deal has been signed with Moderna by Sunak's government, when they keep telling us the pandemic is over after all, when they're stopping giving out booster doses of COVID vaccines in the next few days, shouldn't we all be a bit sus of this? Sunak can continue to plead ignorance quite legally over whether he is directly benefiting from Moderna himself. But given he would certainly know if he still had shares in Theleme, this evasiveness isn't really going to wash. Is there a chance you could be profiting from Moderna? It's a very straightforward question, and it is a question he ought to be able to give a straight yes or no answer to. But he won't, and that's shifty. Adding to the shiftiness is that Theleme themselves won't answer that question either. Anyway, the story isn't disappearing, and it may interest people to know that Theleme have just published profits for the year up to the end of March 2022, and they've made £109 million. That's a £65 million increase on the previous year. Funny that, given that Moderna is Theleme's largest investment. I think we could all hazard a guess at that dramatic increase in profit margins, particularly when you consider that the COVID vaccine is the first product Moderna have ever marketed. Theleme have invested 34.63% of its holdings into Moderna. It seems a reasonable assumption to make as to where those profits have been made and are being made from UK government contracts, at least in part going forwards. Sunak does need to come clean on this. He was supposed to be publishing his taxes as well not long ago. That never happened, did it? And that's just adding fuel to the fire that he's got something to hide. The pressure needs to be ramped up on him on all of this until he does.